Building the Broncos time. What have we learned from free agency, if anything, and what's our draft strategy with the draft just a couple months away? Ready to dig into it all, put our Sean Payton, George Payton hats on, starting now. DNVR Draft Pod. We're doing it. That's right. Henry didn't get the memo to say we're doing it live from downtown Denver on the corner of Colfax and York, right above the DNVR bar. We are live from the Toyota Lounge. Toyota. Live vicariously?
You always think it's that.
I
don't think that's anything. It's a Toyota. Now you've got
you know it. Come on. Let's go places. That's where we're going. We are going places, and that place is building the Broncos up into a contender.
Into a contender. They're not one right now.
Well, building off that contender year to become a bona fide AFC set and forget power,
okay.
Through the draft. Honestly, I'm joined by the great Henry Chisholm,
You are.
voice of the Broncos.
That's what they call me.
The magician, Yahir Vasquez on the ones and twos.
Wait, he does magic?
Yeah, he does. What he does to make this show happen is, in fact, magical.
He looks he's doing magic.
Henry, the stock of this here draft pod, which I reminder, we are on the draft pod, so if you're like, who's this clown? And you're upset because we're not talking Broncos from a Broncos perspective. We're talking Broncos from a draft perspective. We do this every week. We love you for tuning in. Please, leave us a thumbs up and say nice things in the Toyota chat. The stock of this here draft pod has never been higher.
Yeah.
Because somewhat of a punt on free agency.
Yep.
Taking care of your own,
Yeah.
Which I'm a big believer in.
Yep. I mean,
family is everything for me.
You don't just get to blow $100 million every year.
Sad.
Well, and I guess they did on Pat Surtain.
I wish we could.
Cortland Sutton and Quinn Miners and
English
Zach
soccer
Allen.
teams get to do that.
They do. Baseball
Super
teams
lame.
get to do that.
Oh, I hate it.
Yeah. But as of now, so we still don't have like the official numbers because the contracts aren't out yet.
Yeah.
I just signed him yesterday.
You'd love to do some cap math.
I really would. And my best guess right now is that the Broncos are about $20 million in cap space.
Beautiful.
After the draft class. So
yeah,
you'll probably save about $10 million going into to like use during training camp and into the season, which gives you about $10 million to play with.
I would love to play.
Yep. And so there's something on the way. I just don't know.
Njoku Rashad White, sign me up.
Yeah. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so that's what we want to get into is what does free agency mean? Obviously, not all the dust has settled because, as you just pointed out, should be $10 million to play with.
They've always had the chance to make one kind of like real move.
Yeah.
And that's still right there. But it feels like
waiting for the right opportunity. Waiting for the right opportunity.
To me, it feels like a trade.
Yeah, that probably would make sense. Chance of Breece Hall from behind the set.
Yeah.
I just wish J.K. Dobbins could be better in pass protection, so you're not having Tyler Bidet on every obvious passing third down.
I just wish he was on the field. I just wish he was on the field. That's all I care about.
I know. And then the other thing, I really need like pass pro intel on all these running backs, free agents and otherwise.
I could pull up some draft stuff.
Okay, that'd be great. But so yes, Broncos punting on things, which is why the draft becomes more important than ever. Mm-hmm. You build a contender through the draft. And also this free agency period, just a real reminder of like, you draft a guy, he might not work out all the way, but boy, he's still going to have employment for a long time. Lots of draft busts getting second, third chances, millions of dollars sent their way. It's impressive.
Yeah.
There's never been a better time to feel good about your bad draft takes than in the last 3 days.
Right. No, I mean, everybody gets contracts.
Lots of draft busts getting paid.
Yeah. Because there wasn't like a free agency with too much high-end talent. Like you had Linderbaum, who's an elite center.
Yeah, even then. Boy, that
he's not number one.
That Quinn Meinert's contract looks amazing.
Right, absolutely.
Ben Powers, what a steal.
I know. That's
Palczewski might be the signing of free agency.
Totally. But yeah, I mean, and you go through, there just aren't like, was Alec Pierce, I think he wound up being the highest paid receiver. Like that's
right.
That's a medium starter at best. Like that's not anything special. And
was just like no whatever tackles, for 3 years.
No guards, no running backs. I mean, running backs all in perspective, but I stand by. There's 10 guys I'd take over either one of those two. And you just kind of go through the whole thing, and they're just there weren't many guys who you would add and say like, oh, he's going to a Pro Bowl. You know, most because most of them had never been to one.
Yep.
Yeah.
So yeah, honestly, it makes me think maybe I've been too conservative on my draft grades.
Maybe we.
That
maybe
seems
no
like
players are good. So
you're right. The NFL's a little more lenient than I am.
Right.
Which surprising. But yeah, Hank, let's get into this because there's a lot still, even though the moves haven't been exciting, not a ton has happened to garner and alter our draft strategies.
Right. So
can I start from this signing? The Palczewski signing, the not getting rid of Ben Powers, let's address need one, which we can potentially take off the table. Mm-hmm. Do the Broncos still need O-line help? Or do you think that need has significantly been pushed down to where that's maybe, you get a little day 3 filler, but that's about it? Or do you still think there's potential for an O-line draft pick to happen in those coveted top 3 rounds, those coveted top 100 picks?
So to me, offensive line was never a need. I'll start there. It was always like there was
more of a planning ahead need, yeah?
Right. But even then, like, need might be a bit strong. Because
Powers is up in a year, and the McGlinch who stole Christmas in 2 years. Yeah.
Yes. So I think there are opportunities to like make moves there.
Yes.
Which is why I was surprised to hear the Broncos say through reporters that they're not trading Ben Powers. Yeah. Because that seems like something you would decide after the draft and not something that you would decide right now. Like I get when you re-sign Palczewski, Ben's agent's going to call and be like, hey, wait, what's going on here? We don't need to be worried. Mm-hmm. And you say like, no, we're not going to cut you or whatever. We don't have plans to trade you. And maybe you just feel like you have to say that in that moment. And the plan that we had all along was you could draft a guy with some tackle guard versatility in the first round. At that moment, you say, trade Ben Powers, and you can have the rookie compete with Palczewski for that job in year 1, and then you kind of have pieces moving up. But when they come out and say, we're not trading Ben Powers, or again, say through agents, or say through reporters that we're not trading Ben Powers, it surprises me, and I think I just don't really buy it. I think that their plan is to not do it, but if the opportunity falls, then yeah. And so you look at the offensive line, though, like Matt Parrott, Frank Crum, that's your backup left tackle, right tackle. Palczewski, obviously, backup guard. And then you still have Forsythe and Gargiulo for that backup center position. Gargiulo was hurt last year, so we never really saw. Forsythe played pretty well when he got in. Yeah. So you have like, say Gargiulo or Forsythe is your backup center. That leaves you with 9, including one of those two. You could upgrade. There's room on the roster if you really wanted there to be. But I don't think it's more so let the board fall to you unless that Ben Powers trade him on draft day plan is still alive, which may be the case.
Yeah, and also moving on from Ben Powers, leaning into Palcho, I do think would be more of a lean in to more of a wide zone running attack than Power, which is what Powers, aptly named, does so well.
But then when you bring back JK, do you say that maybe that isn't what we want to do anyway?
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. Like for JK, what he was so good at is letting those big boys just work their double teams and find the crease 3 seconds later.
Which is why sticking with Ben Powers maybe makes sense.
Yeah, it is the most likely option.
The
for sure.
3 losses you have from the roster last year, all defenders. Mm-hmm. John Franklin-Myers, the biggest.
Yep.
Dre Greenlaw.
Yep.
Another great Dre goes down. You hate to see it.
Need more
and
Dre's.
PJ Locke.
Right.
Who maybe the Jahdae Barron pick makes a little more sense with PJ gone.
Yep.
And then you still have a need you at least need some youth and linebacker depth.
Yep.
You at least need a third running back.
Yep.
Tight end, I think you can still up the ceiling and, get younger at that position. And I don't know, wide receiver.
I think you certainly need one more receiver. I mean, right now, Michael Bandy's your 5th. And I just don't.
The Bandy man.
After his 4 years on the practice squad, I don't think all of a sudden you're saying, we got to do, at the very least, there's competition,
And we were talking so much about, can you get that upgrade that has the trickle-down effect of upgrading the whole wide receiver room? It seems like with the Broncos maybe showing some interest in more run-of-the-mill free agent wide receivers, they're thinking more depth. They're thinking, let's not get to the spot we got in the AFC Championship where all of a sudden we're really lacking for depth. Yeah. So maybe there's time for a vet depth piece.
Totally.
There.
No, I think it'd make a lot of sense. And I think they were interested. You heard them talk about Kendrick Bourne, for example.
Yes, sir.
Somebody like that you can just plug in. Essentially, it feels like you always just have Little Jordan Humphrey as a backup plan. He's kind of your baseline. Yep. And so you can go through and say, would we rather have Kendrick Bourne? Yep. Sure, we can go talk to Kendrick Bourne or whoever those names are. But in the end, if you wind up, those guys are too expensive. I would guess that's what happened with Romeo Doubs. There was that first report, there's some interest, Broncos could be interested. And their interest was probably this guy's going to be $9 million, $8 million.
Expensive young man.
Turns out it's double that, which he's just not worth. So I do think there will be a receiver on the Broncos opening day roster who is not currently on the roster.
Nice.
I think that's what we know for sure. Now, whether you go draft, whether you sign somebody, I think even if you're planning on drafting a guy, you still sign somebody now. If you have to carry 6, you carry 6. If you have to cut the vet, you cut the vet. And that's assuming it's more of your little Jordan Humphrey deal.
Yeah.
And not the, if you get Deebo Samuel for $8 million or whatever he costs, then you can't move on from anybody. You could carry 6 if you had to.
They have cut or traded a vet
totally.
Back-to-back off seasons. Josh Reynolds 2 years ago and Tim Patrick a year ago.
Sherfield in there too.
Yeah. Oh, I love me some Trent Sherfield.
Yeah.
So that sets the stage. Now we're going to get into ranking these needs from a priority standpoint, and then we'll get into some draft targets and build the Broncos. Right. We're going to make this roster better. But first, a shout out to our friends at... It's coming, guys. It's on its way. Sling TV, that's right. Sling TV is one of the most flexible ways to watch live TV, and they're getting you ready for the college hoops tourney coming up. 'Tis March after all, Big Hank, and Sling TV gives you access to the games and more control over how and where you tune in. Check this out. Sling has flexible 1, 3, or 7-day pass options. That means instant access to live TV for the men's and women's tournament, and you can get a day pass starting at just $4.99. And Sling is celebrating the chaos that everyone loves about the tourney. They are making it more fun to root for the dogs. You know we love dogs in March. So if you purchase any pass from Sling and a 12 through 16 seed makes it to the round of 16 in either men's or women's tourneys, then your next day pass is just $1. So get signed up at sling.com/underdog. If an underdog wins, then you win too. Live TV your way. Learn more at sling.com/underdog. No purchase required. To learn more and see the full rules, visit sling.com/underdog. And a shout out to our friends at New Built. New Built. They're real homies. They're real DNVR fans. They're all in on us, all in on our Broncos offseason coverage. And they are licensed general contractors who can help with any project, big or small. They're available 24/7 and truly care about being there for their customers. The over 600 reviews prove this to be true. They'll work with your insurance to make sure a stressful process is as smooth as it can possibly be. The repair service is offered fire damage, water damage, mold removal repair services, commercial projects, you name it. New Built's got you covered. When the home emergency hits, New Built Restoration and Construction will be there at nubilt.com or 720-902-7472. Let them know DNVR sent you. All right, Hank. We are so back. So yeah, we listed all those needs.
Yep.
How do you rank them? What is the most important of these needs?
Geez.
Yeah. Yep. Yes,
so
sir,
offense,
Bob.
Offense is a weird one because, like I said, you don't have like a fifth receiver on your roster. Like you need to have a guy like that. That is a need, but also we're talking about like a fifth receiver who isn't out there versus like
down the line.
Tight end, you have the bodies, but at the same time, like you probably get more out of it. So I think I go offensively. Tight end is the biggest need. Receiver is the second biggest, and then
more so than running back, huh?
I think I'll say that I think the best plan for the Broncos at running back is the trade deadline. Because I think right now, like looking at that David Montgomery trade, like that's something you could have done. But also, I don't think it's responsible or would make David Montgomery happy if you added him to a backfield that already has R.J. Harvey, J.K. Dobbins. The Broncos need they need another starting running back. That's what they need is insurance. And I think that it's a lot easier to go and get one of those guys. It's going to cost a third or fourth round pick. It's not the end of the world. Just go do that at the trade deadline. You know, like you can add him at that point because you're not going to find a running back who's better than J.K. Dobbins, you know, and you want to get touches for R.J. Harvey too. So I think to me, there's no rush. You just need to have that insurance by the trade deadline when you can no longer replace J.K. And if something happens before the trade deadline to JK, then the door's open to, trade a first round pick if you need to. Like go get yourself a star because then it's open. I think there's to me no rush because I'm confident JK is going to start the season and it's just kind of what happens from there. Although going and drafting a running back, I think you should do it. Like you've got 9 picks, one of them should be a running back, but I don't think that it's a situation where you have to get one early because I think trading next year's third round pick at the trade deadline gets you a better running back for this playoff run than spending a third round pick on a rookie in this draft, you know?
Yeah.
So that's why the need is lower.
I guess similar to linebacker.
Right. Like
it's
not immediate.
You just need some refreshments.
Right.
But less of an instant need. And I'd agree on tight end.
Yep.
That's where the offensive multiplicity needs to be upped.
Yep.
Weird tight end class to do that with.
It really is.
But there's some talent. Okay. And what about on the defensive side?
Defense, like you said, linebacker similar to running back in that start playing for the future. And like I really like Lavelle Bailey. I really like Jordan Turner. Crenny Reed is somebody they really like. They like all. So you have like good young linebacker prospects who have been in the system for a couple of years.
Yes.
And I think we will see at some point this season. And by the end of the year, we might say, let's get Lavelle Bailey on the field more. Because last time he was on the field, that's what we left thinking. At the same time, it does feel like this is kind of a golden opportunity to, like, there's room on the roster. You can carry one of those guys or two of those guys. You had no issue getting Lavelle Bailey, who I thought would be the toughest to get the practice squad, to the practice squad last year. So you can hold on to those guys while also adding a guy in the draft. And so there's this 53-man roster crunch that's always easy to forget at this time of the year.
Yeah, you're always on top of it.
But I think linebacker is just a position where it's easy to add in the draft and not there's no cost.
Deep class, third day, you got to get a linebacker some way somehow and take advantage of that.
At some point,
could be.
If that's where you think the value is, there's no reason not to.
Yeah. I'm assuming D-line is the more pressing need then.
I mean, so you go through the room. You've got Zach Allen, DJ Jones, Malcolm Roach, Iniu Uzurike,
correct,
Savion.
Yeah,
and I believe those are the 5. With obviously you've been keeping like Jordan Jackson on. He played a lot 2 years ago, and then you draft Savion, so he's practice squad and on the bench. And then Matt Henningsen, who I thought played pretty well 2022, didn't play as well 2023.
Yeah.
And then practice squad for depth reasons because he fell behind Jordan Jackson.
Yep.
And then this year tore his Achilles in camp, so we never saw him. So I think you have, if those are your 7, I think like you're good. But there's obviously that 6th roster spot, which you're talking about giving to Jordan Jackson. You could go get a rookie there. So I don't know that it's pressing that you do that, but it's one of those windows to a roster spot that I think would make some sense if the opportunity's there.
Can they stay the orange rush, my t-shirt?
Oh,
without JFM.
The concern, I guess, the other side is if you draft a guy in the 5th round defensive line, he's not going to be better than Jordan Jackson this year. And so then you're rostering a guy who's not as good as the other, which you don't have to give him a jersey. There's ways around it. But that would be the concern. So I think early defensive line makes sense, but don't take one just to take one later on, because I think it just makes you worse in the short term.
For sure.
And that might not be worth it because you're not getting the 5th round pick to the practice squad.
That's similar to the tight end combo.
Yeah. But with you just have an open roster spot. I think you carry 4 this year. And so like you've got Ingram, Trautman, Adkins. And they bring Lucas Kroll back for training camp, but he's not.
So D-line's still a bigger need than linebacker, though?
No. I go linebacker. Yeah. Just because, I mean...
And then the PJ Locke.
I'd say that's probably the biggest.
DB. No.
I mean...
Biggest.
I think that's a guy who gets on the field more.
Okay.
Maybe equal to linebacker.
So, for the...
Equal to linebacker.
What type of... We talked about what type of D lineman you need. We were off the edges.
Yep.
Cassius Howell's really dropping down boards, Hank.
Yeah.
He's just not what the Broncos need, sadly.
No, he is not. No, there's just no room on the team for an edge rusher.
DB-wise, so you need more of that bigger, true 5 technique or even just a defensive tackle type.
I just want quick first step.
That's the...
I want JFM.
Yeah, ideally it's like a 3-tech.
Yeah. Either it's 3-5.
Yeah, I know. There just aren't many JFM types.
No. I'm not sure if that's always the case, but certainly this year.
Yeah.
I really struggled to find one of those. Because there aren't even like any big edges who would say could bump inside. Obviously, I mean like Ruben Bain and some of those guys at the top, but not in Bronco range.
I'm back to talking myself into TJ Parker, the Clemson edge.
Yep.
10 pounds heavier, an inch taller, an inch longer arms than Jonathan Cooper. Is that enough? Probably not.
Yeah.
But I'm willing to talk myself into it. And then it's mostly the D lineman types. I'll get into the options a little later when we're building the Broncos. What type of DB do you need? Is this more of a safety?
Safety.
Okay.
Yep.
Single high type?
Got to be multiple. In this defense, you have to do both.
Okay.
Yep.
So one of those guys checks off a lot of boxes, can play some big nickel for us.
Wouldn't hurt.
Can play some single high, can play some 2 high, can play in the box. That's the ideal.
Yep.
Okay, that sounds like a pretty premier player.
It does.
What type of tight end are we seeking? Because you have 2 blocking tight ends in Trautman, Adkins. You have 2 receiving tight ends in Ingram, Kroll.
Yeah.
Which box are we trying to check
I
off?
would start by saying Kroll is not part of the conversation. I think
Love
when
it.
you give a guy the minimum contract that's not guaranteed, he's not going to be on the team after August. I think there's some reaction.
Similar as Jordan Jackson, right? It might be hard to find.
If you need him, he's there.
Like, for now, I trust Kroll more than Caleb Lohner, for example.
Right. Who has, I think, a better chance of making the team still, though. But so I think it is just the multiple guy. You're still looking for like your Adam Trautman upgrade. Somebody who can block and catch and do it well.
The inlay tight end with some skills. What's our running back type that we're looking for?
Just anything.
More of a receiver joker, more of a downhill bruiser.
All would work. Like I think I don't know that you have to have 2 different types of running back. Okay. Pros and cons to that, obviously, but I think I guess I would lean towards somebody who can just go run between the tackles, but that can be vision. That can be Von Achane has turned into somebody. James Cook has turned into a guy who's really good between the tackles, and he's not necessarily that body type. So I'm totally open-minded. I think right now, like, there are some pass protection snaps open, but I think if you go into the draft hunting for that in particular, you might be missing the larger plot, which is that, like, next year, do you want to be back in this offseason saying, well, we've got an upgraded Tyler Bidet, but what is that, you know? So, like, if you have, like, the Joker stuff, that's great. If you have the between the tackle stuff, that's great. And honestly, I don't think this guy sees the field all that much this year. Unless, like, if you trade up for Jeremiah Love, but most likely you're sitting as a third running back. And like I said, I think you go outside. Unless you really pop, you're not going to be the JK replacement when JK gets hurt, I don't think.
Yeah.
I think they learned that lesson.
Can I hold your feet to the fire and have you rank these needs now?
Yes.
Tight end 1. DB 2.
Yeah. I'm going to flip that. I'm going to go linebacker over DB.
Okay, tight end 1, linebacker 2. DB, you know, it's not just losing PJ Locke, it's that Brandon Jones also a free agent in a year.
Well, and J-Mac and Riley also next year. So next year you're like, the Broncos don't have salary cap space in the future.
Yeah, correct.
And for all the people who say, when RK says the salary cap isn't real, it is actually real.
Come on.
Which
we don't want to hear
stinks. But you are going to lose one of those guys at least. But they like Chris Abrams-Drain. You've got Jade. I think you're fine. So I'm not talking myself in a corner. So yeah, safety is in there as well.
So tight end, linebacker, safety, D-line?
It'd be D-line or running back. Either way. Do you have an opinion? Similar. Well, let's go running back. Chance a guy pops, more likely to be productive early.
The thing about D-line is, like, I'm either drafting a D lineman in the first 2 rounds or I'm probably not drafting one at all.
Right. Which I don't know which makes it not feel like a need in hindsight. You know? Well,
you're probably fine without JFM because numbers-wise you're fine, but are you going to get again, Orange Rush?
Totally.
Are you able to still be the Orange Rush without JFM?
Right.
And Eneu Uzurike taking those snaps.
Right. Yeah, I'm curious what those snaps even look like.
I know.
How many of them go to Malcolm? How many go to Innie?
Right.
Because Innie does have, like, the length and, like, that occasional burst that you see. Yeah. Like, those feet are quick to be a pass rusher, but we mostly saw him in run-stuffing situations because he's 340 pounds. Mm-hmm. So Meanwhile, Malcolm has just been, like, he's just your B+ at everything. So he fills.
Malcolm's great. I do 50%. Think Malcolm's the replacement.
Yeah. Yeah. It's tough. But yeah, honestly, the Broncos, In the grand scheme of the NFL, the needs aren't bad.
Or maybe more, exotic fronts.
Right.
Like Jonah Ellis can play with Cooper and Bonito in obvious passing downs, or
right.
Get ready to learn Dondre or Q. I thought Q started really flashing.
Yeah, totally.
It's just I wish Coop and Bonito were less of the liabilities they are as run defenders right now.
Yeah. Yeah, and Benito's getting better too.
Yeah.
There were a couple years where he was just kind of unplayable against the run. Yeah. And now he's gotten to the point where it's like, I don't know. He's not to like the Von Miller level of figuring that out. But there are some similar traits where it's just like figuring out how to use that quickness to be able to dodge a block, even if putting your shoulder in a guy and knocking him back is going to be tricky.
Yeah. And it's why the internal development of these guys is, while it's annoying, probably not the worst course of action for the most part.
And that's why Dondre and Q, you get them out there and see what they can do in those situations.
Okay. And Savion. Savion is probably your best true JFM replacement.
Right. You're talking about college
why
edge
did
rusher
we not see
inside.
him more?
Because the defensive line was healthy.
Yeah.
Because he couldn't get a uniform because he'd have to take it from any, and he doesn't. If the other team's out there on 13 personnel, you want any and not Savion. Those are any snaps.
Fair enough. Okay. This gives us this context to start building the Broncos. That's right, Yaya. We're building the Broncos. Presented by New little branded segment. You love to see it. We're building the Denver Broncos with New Built Restoration and Construction. When that home emergency hits, New Built Restoration and Construction will be there at nubilt.com or 720-902-7472. Let them know DNVR sent you. Look at that beautiful graphic. God, New Built's amazing for doing this for us. Okay, Henry. Let's start with tight end.
Yep.
Tight end, I'm not going to lie to you, Hank. End of round one, I don't know that things line up.
Yep.
Especially if you want that true Y inline tight end.
Right.
Because at the end of the first, I think it's more guys like Justin Joly, NC State tight end, nice receiving tight end. Reminds me a little bit of Harold Fannin, reminds Fran Duffy, our All-City draft analyst, of Dawson Knox. That's from the draft guide. Max Clare, the Purdue transfer who went to Ohio State. Underwhelming tape at Ohio State, but intriguing tape at Purdue. But those are the receiving tight end types.
Right.
You want the inline guys, the Sam Roush's, short arm Sam Roush, Nate Borkischer, the Texas A&M tight end, who Fran is high on tight end 3. You know what his pro comp is?
No.
Adam Trautman. Ever heard of him? The other Ohio State tight end, another tough name for me, Will Kamarek. Very good blocking tight end. Nice size. AJ Barner is the comp for Fran there. But all of those, the true inline guys, too rich for the end of round one.
Yep.
So I think you're hoping for them to be, and I really like our Big 12 guys. Joe Royer from Cincinnati, Tanner Kazoil, who has the size of an inline tight end, more of a big receiving tight end right now. Michael Trigg from Baylor's really fun, ginormous hands and arms, but definitely a receiving tight end. All those guys. That's where, we wait till late day, round 2, and we can start thinking about these guys.
Start thinking about round 2, and maybe there's a trade back situation. Maybe there's a trade up in the third round.
So, round 3, round 2, that's where we start to address tight end of the future.
Yep. I do really like Sam Roush. I think what the Broncos have lacked is just a guy who you put on the field and he can block. And there is no negative impact to your run game. Because even that's where with Trautman, sometimes the stats are tough because like there are tiers of tight ends who you, first of all, just never you do your best to avoid putting them on the field when you're running the football.
Yeah.
Then they're the guys that you kind of hide on the backside.
Yeah.
And then they're the guys who you actually like run power and go to his side, or outside zone, you're going to his side. And so sometimes I think the numbers get kind of knocked because you're just like, well, you're half the tight ends you would never try to run this play because he's out there in this position anyway. And when it doesn't work, you forget about the times that it does work. And I think that's the guy the Broncos want. First of all, ideally, somebody you just want to run behind. And then just by being on the field as a big body can provide some receiving threat, where it's just like those easy little out routes leak out over the middle. You don't need to be a superstar receiving tight end to go get 550 yards in the NFL. You just need to be on the field enough that you can catch some easy passes. So I think that's where you look. That's why that's exactly what Sam Roush did at Stanford. And some of those other guys, the A&M guy is also interesting.
Yeah, Will Kalkmarek really feels like he'd be a fit. But boy, the receiving stats are nothing to write home about.
That's the part.
Nothing to write home about. Because he didn't do anything. No.
15 catches, 168 yards in 11 games.
Yeah.
11 starts. That's where, with Roush, he's your second leading receiver. It's not flashy stuff. It's just, I can run an out route when we have leverage, and I'm too big for him to get through me.
I guess worth mentioning, Eli Stower's another receiving tight end, maybe in that late first range. But again, it sounds like that's not the type we're going after. Not our type.
It wouldn't make as much sense.
Okay. So let's translate.
It would be fun.
No, I was going to say let's go to DB, but no, you've said linebacker need two.
Probably. I mean, you're just...
Okay, here's where our options in the late first become interesting.
Mm-hmm.
C.J. Allen, Georgia. Jacob Rodriguez, Texas Tech. Anthony Hill, Texas. As far as late first, that's kind of what we got.
Yeah.
It's kind of what we're working with.
Yep.
Jake Golday, Cincinnati.
Okay.
They draft one of these guys, man. I'm not going to be super pleased. And I'm a pretty big Anthony Hill guy. I'm not going to be super pleased. I'm just not.
Why?
Well, first off, it's the modern NFL. I'm kind of forget linebacker. Where's the next Nick Enuari, Give me a safety like that. Get you someone who can do both. Get me that defensive joker.
Yeah.
That's what I want. I don't want another linebacker. It's just meat and potatoes. Enough meat and potatoes.
Especially in the first round.
I want a flambe. I want them coming to my table and using those blowtorches and lighting shit on fire in front of me,
Yeah.
Let's have some fun with it. We're building the Broncos for new build here.
Right.
Though maybe new built, more meat and potatoes kind of guys, They understand when the home repair comes, you need to address it the right way. Yeah, and it's a deep linebacker class. I just wait later on.
Who stands out later on? Because that's where I struggled.
Yeah, I mean, Torian York is a fun one. Texas A&M.
5'10".
Yeah. Oof. But premier traits. Bryce Botcher, Oregon would be fun. But the guy I really love, Hank, is Kyle Lewis from Pitt. Converted safeties, got the cover skills. He was a monster in one-on-one coverage against the running backs in coverage one-on-one. I think he's the perfect kind of modern linebacker. He's 101 on Fran's board. JOK is his comp. Yeah. Doesn't that sound awesome? And that's a little of the diversity we maybe don't have in that linebacker room,
How tall is JOK? Is JOK 6'4"?
Oh, I thought JOK was pretty undersized.
I could be wrong.
Yeah. And then, I don't know,
6'2".
Josiah Trotter is out there. Deontay Lawson or Justin Jefferson, the two Bama linebackers. Lander Barton from Utah would be in that mix. That's where Kendall Daniels, massive converted safety, 6'5", 242, Oklahoma linebacker. These are the names that would intrigue me in day 2 among the linebackers.
Interesting.
But Henry, from what you're telling me need-wise, boy, I think it really lines up for a DB.
Yeah.
Oh, I think it really lines up for a DB, folks. Yep. Emmanuel McNeil-Warren from Toledo, 6'3". Size, forced fumbles, can check off all the boxes you were asking of.
Yep. Yeah. It's interesting, those lankier guys. Because remember, this is a coaching staff that didn't want Justin Simmons. And part of it's the salary situation, but a lot of it was like that's just not necessarily the build they're going for. Like they want somebody who can pop a little bit more and isn't so like lanky. And I disagree with them. Like I love a guy who has like that length and range to make plays deep. But that's not what they're about, which makes me wonder about Emmanuel McNeil-Warren.
They do like their little guys, huh?
Yeah, they want the stout little just punch. Like same thing with the linebackers for the most part, is they aren't big on like the lanky, rangy guys.
Oh,
it's
God.
just I know you like.
They're drafting CJ Allen, aren't they? Oh, boy.
I know. It's the first round pick for
the Toyota chat making a joke
better.
and saying an inside linebacker in the first will play less than Jahdae Barron did last year.
I mean, that's the plan.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm just a little bit jaded, but I don't see rookies helping the Broncos out too much this year.
I'll make you feel better. They're not going to use the first round pick.
I do think it's a perfect point to trade down.
I think they trade for a player.
That's my thing too. I
think most likely they're trading it for a weapon.
Given these options we're laying out, maybe not a bad choice. Outside of McNeil-Warren, Dylan Thieneman, we talked about how the Oregon safety, is probably gone by the 30th pick with his incredible combine. I really like AJ Halsey from LSU. Don't think the end of the first is too rich, but
really, okay.
If you trade it down, maybe it lines up even better. And in day 2, Kamari Ramsey of USC, Jalen Kilgore of South Carolina would all be guys I'd be very interested in. And then corner Hank, because you did mention how Riley Moss, J-Mac,
if you don't draft one this year, you're gonna draft one next year.
And I tell you, first off, if you like little punchy guys, there's a guy at Indiana named D'Angelo Pons.
Oh my God, yes, there is.
He's 5'8", 182.
I know.
Who, gosh, I'm torn because a first rounder that small at corner has seldom been drafted that high. But boy, feels like the Broncos might be intrigued. And then I do keep seeing these mocks where Jermod McCoy, let's double check, 5th ranked prospect in the entire draft class, the Tennessee DB, who was out all of last year with an ACL, but as a sophomore was incredible for the Tennessee Vols when that defense really was like the stronger unit for Tennessee. And, they go to the playoffs, they lose to Ohio State. I think he could be a phenom.
Oh, yeah.
Well, obviously, he's my 5th prospect in the entire draft. If he dropped to you, the value might just be so good that you can't pass it up.
I know. It's so tough to imagine him dropping.
And all the Riley haters, guys, I think your standards are too high, but this is one of those few guys I would say, I think in the first couple years could be an upgrade on Riley Moss as an outside corner. And all of a sudden, you can never hear is Houston's defense better? No.
Yeah.
No. Not with Jermod McCoy opposite Pat Surtain.
What about with Jahdae Barron out there?
And Jahdae Barron.
He does exist.
No, I know.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, and the other thing is, I see a lot of these mocks where the Chiefs are waiting on their corner at 29. I think that 9th pick overall is where they might have to get their corner. Mansour Delaney or Jermod McCoy might be staring them in the face, but it is a deep corner class. A lot of upside, a lot of really talented kids, a lot of standouts in college. And that continues not just at the end of the first, end of the second, end of the third. Dalen Everett from Georgia, Will Lee from Texas A&M, Keontae Scott, who feels very Bronco-esque. the nickel corner safety for Miami.
Yep.
Chris Johnson, who's outstanding, San Diego State corner. Devin Moore from Florida. Julian Neal from Arkansas, who's a freak. Colton Hood, Brandon Cisse, Malik Muhammad from Texas. There's a lot of corner options to where I think we weren't talking about this a couple months ago and we're making jokes about will George Payton be able to resist? But it's just the way this draft class lines up. I think you might. I mean, geez, I was looking at Fran's board. So in the top 100, he has 15 cornerbacks.
Right.
That's more than any other position by far.
Which means you can get one in the third round. Some guys are going to fall.
Indeed.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Does have 11 edge rushers in the top 100.
Like the plan is for Jade to be a starter in 2027 though. Like that has to be the plan.
Yes.
And so
yes, it better be.
You have to factor in. You draft one of these guys, then all of a sudden Jade's back to the bench, which is unlikely. And so I think that's the kicker. Unless it's
is
in
your
the third
PJ
round.
Locke replacement.
Right, yeah. If you could play primarily at safety or Jade.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. They still say boundary corner, but I agree with you. Like safety would make a lot of sense. At some point, if we see him like play some safety, that's when my mind will go to like real possibility they're going to do it. Like I've got to see it before I think they're lying to us.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, it's your biggest loss next season, probably next offseason, probably will be Jaquan O'Reilly though. I think that's when you know that fact right now, it has to be tempting. But the fact that it last year, I think we're living in a world where Alontae Taylor just got $20 million a year.
Oh, I know.
Like Riley's getting $20 million a year pretty easily. And it's tough to see the Broncos matching that. If he's getting that, what's J-Mac getting? Like he's going to be pushing $20 million too, even though he's a nickel corner.
Gun to your head. Pick one. Who do you spend the money on? Henry, there's a gun to your head.
I think I lean J-Mac.
Yeah, samesies.
I think so.
Samesies.
But a lot of it just has to do with where you see Jade.
Samesies.
So I don't know. But yeah, like the Broncos are entering their salary cap hell era.
Hell yeah.
And so like you're past the days of being able to just bring back like $20 million a year players when you have two at the same position. So I do think corner in the first round probably isn't alive, but the guy slips to the third round. I think it's very much alive.
Yep. Some ball knowledge being shown in the Toyota chat with Arizona safety Traden Stukes being thrown out. Arizona, some interesting DBs, including Dalton Johnson, who's ranked higher for Fran. There's those Wildcats had a lot working. Genesis Smith, another interesting DB out of that program. Okay, remind me, did we say running back next?
Yeah, I think we did.
Okay. End of the first, it's Jadorian Price, and that's it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He kind of is a can do both for you.
You hope, yeah.
Yeah.
Like that's your goal. If you're drafting him in the first round, he'd better be able to.
Now, I keep coming back to our convo from last week where, boy, I watched Jonah Coleman and I'm like, he's everything Sean Payton loves in a running back. Could you get him in the late second?
I just don't think a running back like that's worth a second round pick.
Low to the ground, 220 pounds, can catch, can pass pro, can run between the lines, can stretch it outside.
I think
you don't like that?
At that point in the draft, you still just have to be a little bit more explosive. Like you don't need to be running 4-4, but like I just don't. Is he going to give you the big play threat?
No, he's not.
That's where like that just feels like a little too rich for me in the second round.
So you're a Mike Washington guy. Mike Washington runs. You know those like they run upright a lot,
right?
But like they've got those choppy legs that are hard to bring down, and then they have the long speed. The Arkansas running back, a combine darling. It's just after becoming a combine darling, I'm not sure he lasts till the end of the second. And the other thing is this running back class, with a lot of guys staying in school and getting that NIL money.
Yeah.
I feel like no matter who you go after, you got to kind of overdraft them.
That's my fear.
Like you probably need to draft them a half round to a round earlier to get the guy you want.
And even looking at the later round guys, like
it's not great.
They just aren't bets I want to take.
It's not
like
great.
Like you look at like Jaden Knott. It's like you go back to a couple years ago and he was good, but it's just like I just don't think that that's a guy who's going to be like the Broncos don't need just like, yeah, he's a fine running back. Like, why not put him at number? Like, if you're drafting a guy, you need to be able to convince yourself that he's either going to be like a number one running back at some point in his career, or he's going to be the type of like weapon that you can move around that's going to be useful. And like Jaden Knott, I'm not willing to bet on him being a starting running back that you're not constantly trying to replace. Yep. Like Adam Randall, the idea is fun in theory, and then you're just like, well, he's not fast enough to be explosive.
Yeah.
And if you're not going to be explosive as a converted receiver running back, like what do you do? Or like Jam Miller, where it's you watch him occasionally at Bama and you're like, oh, look, he can, and you're just like, well, it's
not good.
Are you actually going to be feeling? And so
then if you want the explosiveness, is it Emmett Johnson of Nebraska? Is it Demon Claiborne of Wake Forest? He's only 188 pounds. At least Johnson's 202. I don't know. Tough.
It's just not a good class.
Yeah. And Toyota chat right in pointing out that Washington has some fumbling issues, 8 career fumbles, even though he's only a 1-year starter. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, there's a reason that a guy with that size and speed and SEC pedigree is not being talked about in the top 20.
And Sean said at the Combine that they did a study on running backs who fumbled in college and found that it doesn't really translate to the NFL.
Nice.
So they seem like they would not be worried.
Good.
Also seems like a Sean kind of thing to say like, yeah, don't worry about this. And hopefully Mike Washington gets drafted in the first round and he's sitting there laughing saying like, why would you draft this guy? See, that's why you just never trust a word any of them say.
That's where we go to D-line next.
Yeah.
And I think first round you could hope Keldrick Falk drops to you. Perfect JFM replacement.
Right? You could hope.
Torn on Keldrick Falk, but perfect JFM replacement.
Yes.
And then it's, I don't know, you hope Peter Woods or the aforementioned TJ Parker drop to you.
Peter Woods
the
would be
Clemson
incredible.
D lineman. Peter Woods would be lots of fun. Caleb Banks, the Florida behemoth who moves like a guy 50 pounds lighter. He's funny. He does all the rare things you shouldn't expect a D lineman to do.
Right.
It's the meat and potatoes things that you do expect a D lineman to do, which I'm like, I'm not sure.
Right.
Is he great just like taking on 2 offensive linemen or playing with good leverage at 6'6" and being a astute run defender? You were talking first step. Like he's more of a pursuit guy, which is again like, whoa, how's this 6'6", 330-pound guy running guys down 5 seconds after the ball was snapped? But it's also like, why can't you just beat someone off the snap and get in the backfield right off the bat consistently?
You're 335 pounds and we don't want you at the point of attack. Yeah. That's just a tough combo.
And then it's a lot of nose tackles in this class. It's a great nose tackle class. Well,
don't need that.
We just talked about any. Nose
and you did just pay DJ Jones.
Yeah, nose tackles.
Backup nose tackle for at least the next few years.
So it's like either you get one of those couple elite guys to drop to you, the 2 Clemson kids and Keldrick Falk, maybe Caleb Banks. After that,
what do you?
Yeah.
How does this guy get on the field?
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh boy, Henry.
Can I throw something else at you?
Grim.
I kind of think I'm leaning at the moment. If the Broncos make their first round pick, I think most likely might be a receiver. Because I don't think they're in a position where they have to draft for need. Like, I think, like, because what did we come away with saying is worth the first round pick? Like, maybe a safety?
Maybe a safety. Slash.
And we didn't really
corner. Slash if those D linemen drop.
Yeah. You're right. So if a D line drops.
Which, again, the chat doesn't want to hear they're drafting a defender.
No.
But that is where the board lines up. Defense is where the value should be.
Yeah. Like in a vacuum, you say, what should the Broncos do without looking at who's available? I'd say First round, I might go running back. Second round, I might go defensive line. Third round, I might go. That's when it opens up to a bunch of. That's probably a premium spot for like a multiple tight end who has who lacks like the 40 time or whatever. And you go through that way, but just I don't think this draft class fits that well. And I think even if receiver isn't like a need, there is like I think there's going to be a really good receiver there at 30 who could make an impact as a rookie that maybe even some of those first round defensive linemen couldn't make as a rookie.
There's a lot of teams in the 20s and beyond who are in that wide receiver market.
Yeah.
So I worry the well might dry up. In fact, once the 20s hit, I think we're really hoping those teams draft edges and not wide receivers. Seems like a lot of teams who need edge rush and wide receiver help. I would love Omar Cooper Jr. I think the stock has raised enough for the Indiana wide receiver to where
interesting
he might go just before.
Wow. See, it wasn't long ago we were thinking like pick 30 might be.
Oh, I know.
Reach.
Too rich.
Now he might be gone.
He let Trayvon Henderson this year, where it's like, can you get him in the second? Can you get him in the second? And then just all of a sudden, it's just like, no, like he's a first round pick.
100%. After that, I would love Chris Bell. He's kind of the Jermod McCoy of the wide receivers. Very A.J. Brown-esque, but how soon will he be able to play? Tough to say. Can Denzel Boston, the big Washington wide receiver, drop to you? Casey Concepcion, are you interested in a true slot? Torn. And then it's like, well, later rounds, could I interest you in a size speed upside play like a Bryce Lance from FCS country, which you're familiar with, or Chris Brazel, who has the Tennessee stank on him, but you know that offense is really wacky and weird. But boy, the kid is tall, productive, runs like the wind.
Yeah, and what are the odds that they wind up? What? Let's say there's 8 of these guys who could be in some teams' top 3 receivers.
Yep, for sure.
Could the Broncos be saying
very much an
Chris
eye of the beholder
Brazel? To us, we think he should be a top 10 pick, but because there's so many guys who it's kind of tough to sift through, he's still there at 25, and so you decide like, wait, we can trade up for this guy, and that's just one name. It could be Chris Bell, it could be Casey Concepcion, it could be Mekhi Lemon. Like, it's tough to figure out what order these guys are going to go, I think.
And then I do think there might be an offensive tackle or two that drops, like a Caleb Lomu from Utah, Maxi Henachor from Arizona State.
Yeah. Put him on the bench for 2 years.
Also, the value really lines up for a top interior O-lineman, which with Palcho re-signed, I don't know.
Right.
That doesn't feel like smart business. Boy, Henry, some real decisions. But that was Building the Broncos presented by New Bill, and gosh, we love them for it. Let's get into some super chats real quick. Mine stretching it out. My eyes, they're not what they used to be. Young Yaya. There we go. Okay, from Pure Lapine. Love you, Mr. Lapine. Thank you for the $9.99 super chat. Round pick player, 130, Eli Stowers. 62, Mike Washington. 94, Aiden Fisher. That's the interior linebacker from Indiana.
He's in weird spots on boards.
Yes.
Like potentially not even like draftable to some. Yeah.
Yep.
Interesting.
Early round 4, Zane Durant.
Don't know him.
It's a nice one. He's a Penn State defensive lineman.
Okay.
130, Denzel Boston. Brother, he's gone.
Yeah. He might be gone.
He might be gone before the 30th pick.
He might not. I mean, that's the thing about these receivers.
Round 5, R. Mason Thomas. Love him. Not what the Broncos need, an undersized edge rusher. Another guy I would bet is gone in the top 50. Raylon Wilson, pick 246.
Georgia linebacker?
Yeah, that sounds right. Remember, he was talking to us about Raylon Wilson last week as well. Skylar Bell in the 7th. Albert Regis, another one in the 7th. Look, it'd be a dream draft because you've got some guys in the day 3 who are first rounders or at least top 50 picks. Stowers, though, I don't know. I really don't know about Stowers, brother. Another super chat from Agent Cinco 007. Thank you, Agent Cinco. Eli Heinrich equals great value CMC. Eli Heinrich, the Navy wide receiver, running back. We were talking about him with Fran months ago as a perfect Sean Payton type of pick. So I approve that. Also, going back to Pure Lapine's mock, let's not forget our favorite fullback tight end from Indiana.
Right?
Whose name is really hard for me to pronounce, but he would be
You're not
phenomenal.
alone this time.
Yeah. And Streetside Nomad with the $2 super chat saying, is Broncos free agent silence a sign of a big trade coming?
I think so. I think that's what makes the most sense at this point. Because I don't see, like, we can talk about.
Do they have the cap for it?
They do. I think that's kind of what they have. I would say, so.
That's why you hoard the cap.
That's why you've got like $10 million to play with. I don't think going and getting like Dallas Goedert, you'd be like, yeah, that's an upgrade. There would be some juice there. But I think that packaging that, when you don't have a lot of money to spend, you can throw a pick in with it.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, it becomes worth a lot more because you're just using more assets, giving assets to another team that already paid the signing bonus. And I think that you're just in a situation where that makes a lot of sense. And it stinks that they've pushed cap hits down the line so much to this point that you needed to take a year to be responsible and not do all that because like you're bottom 5 in cap space the next 2 years. And you got to pay Bo and there's a bunch of other contracts up. So I do think that I think there's a trade out there that makes them better. And you're giving up draft capital to do it versus, like, I don't think, again, Dallas Goedert being one example. I don't think Dallas Goedert takes you from, like, Super Bowl contender to let's all bet on the Broncos. They're going to do it. Like, he makes them better for sure, though.
A.J. Brown aside, is there a trade out there that fascinates you in particular?
I wonder. I mean, I know, like, the Jalen Waddle thing has been close to happening before. That's just a fact. And it's been a conversation for 12 months for the Broncos, at least.
Yeah.
But sometimes with the trades,
that'd be big time.
Right.
Especially if you just get rid of the 30th pick for him.
Yeah, I'm not a
That'd
huge Waddle fan personally, but I do think that that's one that's still probably possible.
Garrett Wilson.
I like him better. He's very small. He's just very small. And I think for a slot receiver for Sean Payton, I'm not sure that's exactly what you want because you lose the blocking. There are a lot of plays where you wish he was little Jordan Humphrey, which
Bo could benefit from.
Totally, I do too.
A safety blanket.
I like him. Garrett Wilson, like great hands, catches the ball away from his frame, which is something you don't see from Jalen Waddle, for example.
But it's mostly wide receivers.
I think a trade for a receiver, because the thing about like the AJ Brown trade would be court in a second for AJ Brown, or maybe I don't even know that the Eagles say yes to that, but I do think that a trade probably makes the most sense at this point, and receiver of all trades certainly makes more sense than any other position. So that's where I'm at, and sometimes they come out of nowhere.
What about some of the forgotten tight end twos, like Cole Kmet in Chicago, Luke Musgrave in Green Bay?
Yeah.
Michael Mayer in Las Vegas.
So Cole Kmet, for example, most of those guys, really, you wouldn't likely have brought back Adam Trautman if you were going to do that.
Yeah.
Like you would probably do that as a replacement instead of an addition. Although, knowing that you don't put Evan Ingram on the field in 2 tight end sets, unless you're specifically trying to get the defense to do something weird and leave him open.
Yes. 12 personnel masquerading as 11, yeah.
Right. You could look at it as like a Nate Adkins upgrade, which go right ahead. But then all of a sudden you're saying like you're You're really buying into the third tight end. Other thing with those,
and that's where like it isn't enough of an upgrade over Goddard or Njoku to justify losing the draft capital.
Because like Cole Kmet is making, you'd pay him about $10 million in 2026, $10 million again in 2027. So that's like your cap space, which is a decent use for it. But like I said, like if you're not sure Dallas Goedert is going to be like what gets you over the top for basically that same amount of money, I'm less confident that Cole Kmet's that guy.
Yeah. Wow, I really thought I'd be able to gain some clarity. All I've gained from this is Emmanuel McNeil-Warren. Feels like if you're doing a mock Emmanuel McNeil-Warren. I saw the Lee Hunter chat. We mocked him to the Broncos a little while back, but he is a pure nose tackle, so I don't know about that one.
Also, people talking about the extension for Court preventing a trade. That is correct. You can't. It's really, really hard to trade Court because of that.
Yep.
The flip side is the reason it would work in an A.J. Brown's trade is because the inverse is true for the Eagles. And so you would have to make like a couple of tweaks to your salary cap this year to make it all like add up perfectly. But because they have paid the massive signing bonus to A.J. Brown and the Broncos have paid the massive signing bonus to Court, those cancel out. And so you're not all of a sudden just like paying $30 million to Courtland Sutton to do nothing on this entire extension and trade away because they're doing the same thing. So that's why that in particular works. It wouldn't work just like in a vacuum or in most other deals.
Yep, that's time to wrap it up.
It is.
We could talk for another hour, frankly. But thank you all for tuning in. Leave us a thumbs up. Henry will be talking about this for another hour with Alex Singleton. Great stuff. I think I'll be on the Broncos pod on Friday. So if you're not sick of me, bang, bang, you're going to get more here soon. Love you guys. Thank you for tuning in. Leave us a thumbs up on the way out. Mile high salute to you all.
We all silly like the mayor.